Most first-time managers can spend years fundraising, sending out cold contact to family offices and high net wealth individuals just hoping for a warm intro. But today's guest closed his debut fund, oversubscribed in 12 months, all from his close inner circle and their warm connections. This is the Top Decile Podcast, and I'm Connor Sattely with Decile Group. Today's guest comes from an origin story not many VCs can claim: Hollywood. Today's guest spent 25 years focused on the technology side of Hollywood, with leadership roles at Panavision's Light Iron, Sony, and Pixelogic, and 9 years as the president of the Hollywood Professionals Association. Today, he's the founder and managing partner of Hallstone Ventures, a Los Angeles-based seed fund backing the AI infrastructure behind how media gets made, distributed, and monetized. Very happy to welcome my friend Seth Hallen. Seth, thanks for joining us, man.
Connor, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for this conversation. You and I have other conversations, but and they're always interesting and illuminating. So I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks, man. Me too. I've been looking forward to it. I've wanted to do this one since we started the podcast because you're so, I think, well-spoken and authentic and relatable for many of our managers. So I'm really happy that you're here. So let me open with a cheesy line. To me, when I look at Hallstone Ventures, it didn't seem like you raised a fund. It seemed like you cast it, because all of the LPs that you brought in are already living inside this thesis of the future of how media is getting made and distributed and monetized. So tell me a little bit about this coalition or this cast that you've assembled behind you with Hallstone Ventures.
So I came up through this industry as an operator in the traditional Hollywood film and television supply chain. Early on, I was a television producer, and I marveled at really the technology. A lot of people don't know how much sophisticated technology underlies the creation of all of that. And it's super interesting. And then the intersection of creativity and that technology. So some of the very best creative people are also very highly technical, to the point where they actually can write code in some cases. So how many creative people that are truly creative can also write code? And you find that in Hollywood. I found that fascinating. And, through all of those years of running and building businesses, you meet a lot of people that are your kind of people that also are leaned into that intersection of tech and creativity, and through that resume that you just read out, you end up with a lot of very close relationships of people who are both very talented, very smart, very experienced, but also really excited about not just what the future holds, but being a part of what that future can become.
Well, let's talk about that future a little bit. I think maybe when people think about technology for media, they might think about, oh yeah, the Odyssey just came out. We're talking about big IMAX cameras for big films, right? But actually the technology that'll help with the future of media distribution goes way beyond just cameras, right? So what does it mean, the future of media technology?
So every part of the conceptualization through the consumer or audience member experiencing the content, underneath all of that is a whole bunch of sophisticated technology. And when we're at a time right now where AI native applications are helping people create stories, create music, create sounds, create pictures, create lots of things, better, cheaper, faster than ever before. So we're at a chapter in our history where there's an abundance of content and an abundance of creators. So we like to think at Hallstone that every company now is a media company. And every individual is or could be a creator, given the power of these tools and what they enable, which is a really great thing. That being said, what is also needed for those who are serious about this is a way to, well, make a living from creating these stories or creating these experiences, or the music or what have you. And so currently there's an imbalance where you've got this abundance of creative output and creators, but the stack, the infrastructure that enables the fan engagement, the distribution, the discovery on the consumer side has not yet caught up to the way all the rest of that has changed. So one of the key parts that we recognized was how much opportunity there will be in the creation of new tech by startups that enables that infrastructure layer to really enable meaningful economic infrastructure for this exploding creative community and economy. Does that make sense?
Because it is a wide community, right? We saw each other a few weeks ago in San Francisco, and you said something quite interesting then, which is when you were pitching LPs, you didn't often use the word Hollywood as you were talking to them, because it gives you one narrow idea about what media is, when in reality, the creator economy could touch billions across the planet over the coming decades, right?
Well, that's right. So Hollywood is deceiving as a space. If, when we put our venture capital hats on, it's a deceiving because the outputs that Hollywood, achieves is massive. Obviously, all the IP, all the shows. Just take Disney and think about all the IP that comes out of Disney, and when you add up all the revenues generated from the content, but then the merchandising and the theme parks and everything else, I mean, it's just staggering. But the TAM for the user TAM for the technology itself is tiny in comparison. So there's a very small disproportionate number of professionals that would use tools to enable all of that, and therefore it's deceiving to build within a market if you're focused on the professional supply chain. So a lot of people in Silicon Valley and in the venture capital communities know that Hollywood's not really a great bet, and people also assume that maybe you're raising money for creating content itself. When I first started, people just assumed that it was AI content creation that we were funding, or a new studio, or these creative tools. It's much deeper and more sophisticated than that, as you know, and as I try to explain. And so what we learned was just remove Hollywood out of the entire, as much as that's where I've come from, just move the word out of all of the materials and all of the communications. And it's much easier to talk about this exploding world of creators. And like I mentioned, every company is a media company.
Well, to make it a little bit more concrete, what does the future of media look like in terms of some of the deals that Hallstone Ventures Fund 1 has already made?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll give you a couple of great examples. Our last investment is a company called Wide Worlds, and many people are aware of this sort of category of content called fan fiction, where people can take clips of their favorite shows or movies or other things and kind of do their own edits and put them on social. And traditionally that impedes on a lot of IP territory and kind of illegal stuff, and you certainly can't monetize it, at least legally, if you do that sort of thing. And so what Wide Worlds does, one of their main focuses is to enable that in a meaningful way, make it okay, bring in IP owners such as some of the big studios and networks that own this content, and have the owners of this content put up clips that can be used by fans to edit together and put on their social legally, and these fans can now monetize that in the right way. The IP owners win because it helps them promote their shows, and you can bring in other brands or advertisers or sponsors to monetize even the fan edits, so it really enables the whole ecosystem in a meaningful way, and that's just one area that we find as an explosive growth area.
And just because I know, Anna, you can tell me not to if you want, but I think Orbs is another really interesting example of media technology and how it might be used to create media in a place that nobody would expect. Could you tell us a little bit about that one?
Absolutely. So now the important thing about Orbs is their main focus is not the traditional sort of entertainment as we think of it. There's a reason why it's called media and entertainment, because media includes things that are not entertainment, which anytime you're capturing video, that's media. You could be capturing it for medical use. You could be capturing it for security or surveillance or maintenance or defense or what have you. That's all media. It might just not be entertainment. So Orbs is the world's first commercial robotic camera drone for zero-G environments. And their main use case happens to be for security, maintenance, defense, which are truly all venture scale. But another part of their use is for media and entertainment. So what you were asking me about is important from an entertainment perspective, because what a lot of people don't see coming is how much content is going to be created in space or in low Earth orbit or on the moon or all of the above. It's coming. It's coming fast. In the not too distant future, there will be 24-hour streaming channels dedicated only to space content originated in space. And it's super interesting if you start to do some research on that. There's space sports leagues being created. There's reality shows that are in development. There's movies and documentaries. The whole gamut are getting ready for this. And as space travel becomes more accessible and more common, there will be a need for cameras and lots of other infrastructure, related infrastructure. But one of the things, just to kind of finish up describing this, is you can't, when you're floating and you're in zero-G, you can't operate a camera. Enough people have tried to do it. So it just makes sense. We have drones on Earth fighting gravity. A drone in zero-G makes a lot of sense. And so Orbs, with all of those applications that make adventure scale, seemed like a great investment. And of course, the team is stellar.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that my job running this podcast is really cool because I get to talk about a lot of different stuff. Sports leagues in space is the one thing I haven't heard of yet. So conversation for another day, but I do want to hear more. I want to go back to Hallstone and what you did to start it. You are, I think, the consummate industry professional, somebody who just has a couple decades under their belt of really understanding inside and out of a particular industry. And you had such an incredible year of focusing entirely on fundraising for that fund. But that year must have been completely different than the 2 decades that preceded it. So can you walk us through that year? How did you do it? And what was it like focusing on fundraising so intensely for that first fund?
Well, I want to start with that. Before I joined VC Lab, I spent about 6 months trying to put together a deck, and I come from a world where I got really good at writing decks. I got really good at understanding the points of view that I want to get across, the perspectives, and then telling a story through the use of PowerPoint slides. And so I figured, okay, I can create a deck. I have a thesis. I had my sort of raw thesis for AI-enabled infrastructure for the media and entertainment industry in the future. And I had a run at putting these and I spent a lot of time putting together a story. It wasn't until I went through VC Lab that I understood the importance of crystallizing that message in a way that makes sense for fundraising for venture capital. A lot of those things are not intuitive for an operator. They are learned, they're tried and true, and have been tested. And so I released myself to the guru, so to speak. I let go of everything I thought I knew, and then essentially applied those principles and went to my network. And to answer your question, been an operator for lots of years. Connor, a lot of people too. You've got a network. And it's essentially just looking at who you know and getting all of those names organized. In my case, to use Decile Hub, and then categorizing them even further, right? So you might know, there's probably 1,000 people that I know personally through 30 years of doing things. But are you really, really close with 1,000 people? No. You're probably, for me, I started with the first 50 people who I knew. I didn't need a reason to connect with them. It was as simple as, hey, I want to catch up with you on something. And that's enough. Like we all have those people. You don't need a reason to reach out. Just the only reason you need is we haven't talked. I want to catch up. I want to update you on something. And so I started with all those people that I didn't need a reason. I didn't need to tell them I have a new fund. I have a new company. I'm fundraising, any of those things. It was, hey, I got to catch up. I'm excited about something I want to share. That's simple. They set up the 30-minute call. And so I just started there. And of course, getting to that first close is not easy. But you do the cycles, you get to it, and then it goes from there.
You mentioned something earlier, which is this really, I think, a little bit spiritual, but also a beautiful comment about releasing yourself to the guru. Walk us through that, because when I met you, you were coming to the deals team at Decile and saying, hey, I'm going to start investing and writing memos. I'm getting some investment docs. And I remember you saying, like, guys, pretend I don't know anything. Tell me exactly what I need to know in order to do this the right way, like a professional, because I'm just getting started. And I don't think Neil and I had seen that level of humility amongst somebody who had just gone out and kicked a whole lot of butt on the fundraising side. Where does that humility come from? What does it mean to release yourself to a guru? How has it worked for you?
Well, I appreciate you putting it that way. I'm not sure. I think I've always been the operator as a principal who I always would tongue in cheek say, I want to be the dumbest guy in the room. I've seen a lot of people that need to be the smartest guy in the room. I like to be surrounded by experts who will help me achieve my goals. So I've always been in a position from a very early age of running business. I started my first company when I was 20 years old. So I've always been in a position of leadership and running companies. And I realized early on that, hey, I need to surround myself with super smart people that because I don't know anything. When you're starting young, you don't know anything. And I carry that with me all through time, and there's so much power in expertise and people that really are truly talented and gifted in certain areas. And especially if those are, you depend on those areas for your business, you learn to surround yourself with those people and make sure that they're feeling good and they're in the best place, best environment to do their best work. And I've only felt comfortable when I'm in a room full of people that are really domain experts. So you learn to understand what you know and what you don't know. In my case, as a leader in leadership roles, it was to make sure I had the goals and I knew what questions to ask, to be able to achieve those goals. It's a simple way of putting it. So carrying that forward to today, you immediately realize, at least I did, venture capital is a massive specialization. It's just like anything else. Everything is specialized, and venture capital is no different. And that although I come with a lot of things that will help me on that journey, there are a lot of things, techniques, and the right things to do, the to-dos and don't do's, that are instrumental and vital. And you learn. I could spend years figuring out these things on my own, or I could just go to the people that have already done that, and they can help me cut to the chase. And so after many years as an operator, you learn to realize what you know and what you don't know, what you bring, what you don't bring, and the things that you don't bring, tap into those experts. So when I would talk to you, Connor, or Adeo, or Mike, or Neil, it was me surrounding myself with the best people and having them help me achieve my goals with Hallstone. I mean, it's just as simple as that. It's principle.
Well, thanks for the kind words. I'll pass them along to everybody on the team. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention you do a great job at surrounding yourself with talent also at Hallstone. A lot of the VCs that I talk to are solo GPs. You have the immense privilege of having an awesome team around you. You want to give them some shout outs. What's it like having, because you have such a talented team at Hallstone?
I do. So my first venture partner was Claire Lee, who was the head of startup banking at Silicon Valley Bank for a bunch of years and at Microsoft Ventures before that. And she actually one of the original people to encourage me to go through the VC Lab program. I had known about it, but she kind of really tipped me over the edge. So I thank her immensely for that. She introduced me to Dave Kochbeck, who's my second venture partner. Dave also was at Silicon Valley Bank as the chief scientist, but he was also, in addition to having run banks and been high level in venture banking and been part of thousands of deals and has all of that venture banking knowledge, he was also the founding CTO of Live Nation. He was the CTO of Samsung Accelerator, the CTO of Friendster. So he has this unbelievable mix of media technology, leadership background, and real expertise, and venture banking. So immensely grateful that he's on the team. Leon Silverman, who is a guru on the media tech side. He's been in this industry for 40 years, actually one of my mentors, and just has been an industry and community leader for a very long time, has worked at Disney, Netflix, and others. And Andy Beach, who was the former CTO of media and entertainment for this company called Microsoft. So just a stellar team, and I feel very grateful to have them for sure.
Yeah, well, I think it speaks to the value of surrounding yourself with smart people. We do a little promotion image for each one of these articles where we pull out a quote, and I want you to know how hard I'm going to have to resist not to make the quote. I like to be the dumbest person in the room, because out of context, that may not look like a smart quote, but I love it as a principle.
I mean, I agree. So I'm happy for you to use that if that works. So.
Well, Seth, I've really enjoyed this conversation, man. You're obviously, we're a big fan of yours at Decile Group, and looking forward to see all the things that are coming for Hallstone. So thanks for taking the time to come on and share your story.
Thank you so much, Connor. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, take care, Seth. Bye-bye.